Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to go over an interview with you that Mr. Snyder had with Mr. Greg Hunter over at Rumble. I will leave the link to this article which will allow you to get to that interview. But the reason I want to go over it with you is because I get a lot of comments, and I've had a lot of comments in the past, where people say, well, I'm not prepping, I'm not worrying about anything like this, because God will take care of us. Well, Mr. Snyder, in my opinion, from everything I've seen of him, he is a person of faith. And he is very religious, a person of faith. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever, whether you are or not. I'm a person of faith as well. And I want you to see what he says in this interview. And I want you to see what he says he sees coming. And the reason I think that it's important to reiterate these things is so that you know that the perspective that you're seeing, at least on this channel, on what's coming, is not just one-sided, but that many other people who actually do this for a living. This is what Mr. Snyder does for a living. He writes articles, he does research, he tries to see what's coming down the line so that he can help people better prepare. I think it's important that you get a view from different sides, but what Mr. Snyder's talking about here, man, just wait until you hear all of the things he has to say and see if it resonates with what you see going on today and what you think the probabilities are of these things happening in the future, which goes back to say what I've always said. There's always hope, but without preparedness, hope is nothing but hope. Now, I'm just going to pick through this article, ladies and gentlemen, as I normally do. However, if you want to revisit it, I will leave the link to this article on a pinned comment. And Mr. Snyder starts off by saying, I also believe it will be the best of time for people of God. There is no other time in human history that I would rather live than right now. God put you here. If you're watching, he put you here for a reason. God put you here with a purpose and a destiny and a job for you to do. So if you understand that, you will be really excited about the future, even though things will be chaotic and wild. And it goes back to what I tell you all, and especially people that are in despair, that maybe want to hurt themselves, is that we've been put here for a reason. However, we need to prepare. And this is a message that is being given to you, that is being sent to you, especially if you are a person of faith, that hope is good. But without being prepared, hope is nothing but hope. We've been put here for a reason. We can see what's coming down the road, so we must prepare for what's coming. And here Mr. Snyder reiterates something that I've spoken about, I think during our last live stream, and he says that eventually we will have a conflict with China, and that North and South Korea will also have a conflict simultaneously along with the country that starts with a big letter I, and the other country that starts with a big letter I. And he says that there are all boiling up right now, all at the same time. So imagine if we have conflict with China. Imagine if North and South Korea have a conflict. There's already a conflict going on with the big R and the big U. Imagine all of that at the same time, ladies and gentlemen. It would be terrible, especially here in the United States. How are we going to be able to participate effectively in all of those conflicts at the same time? It would be, in my opinion, impossible, and we would come out on the losing end if that were the case. There have been droughts in different areas in the past. We are seeing tremendous droughts affecting agricultural production all over the northern hemisphere. And these droughts that we're having, ladies and gentlemen, all over the northern hemisphere, think about the southern hemisphere, right? The southern hemisphere is going to have a drop in temperature because of that volcano that threw water vapor, that threw sulfur and particulates into the atmosphere, that is going to be working its way around the southern hemisphere, also, causing havoc for their harvest or their planting seasons. So we have to think about that as well. Are you preparing? Are you prepared? That's what this is about. Encouraging people to do your own research. Don't just believe me about that volcano. Don't just believe Mr. Dubine from Adapt 2030 about that volcano. It actually happened. It was all over the news. It was a huge explosion. And right now, all of the particulates, all of the sulfur, all of the water vapor that was thrown up into the atmosphere from that volcanic eruption, it's starting to work itself through the lower hemisphere, right? The bottom part of the world, and that is going to affect production of crops here coming forward. Meanwhile, in the big U, the breadbasket of the world, we have seen agricultural products restricted because of the WAR with the big R. We have this perfect storm for agricultural production. Get food now. I put up all these videos telling you get food with an exclamation point or exclamation mark, right? And some people would think that that's clickbait, but it's not. I mean it. Get food now. Put it away. Learn how to put it away for long term. That way it can be ready for you to use as soon as you need it. I actually put up a video. I'm putting up a video later on today where I show you all a whole bunch of different foods that are way past their best buy date. And I actually cook a few meals with them to show you that, hey, there's nothing to worry about. As long as you properly store it, and then when you use it, you can check some things to make sure that it is actually good to eat. You can eat these things instead of throwing them in the landfill. Meanwhile, we have an energy crisis that is worse than any of us has ever seen, and I would assume that you would all agree with that statement. It continues to get worse. The price of natural gas has gone haywire because of this WAR between the big R and NATO. Now 2/3 of all fertilizer production, 2/3, ladies and gentlemen, fertilizer equals food. So 2/3 of all fertilizer production have already been shut down in Europe because the price of natural gas, and that is going to affect agricultural production next year as well. 2023 is going to be a very tough year. I believe that during 2023 we're going to go through a lot of our carryovers, and we're going to have a smaller carryover going into 2024. And as I've stated in the past, I believe that we are going to see the beginning of the worst towards the end of 2024. So prepare. People need to realize that if we could not use fertilizer at all, we could not feed about half of the world. Half of the world would instantly starve if there was no fertilizer used. So what we are facing is a big time global food shortage in 2023 and going forward, in my opinion. It's going to be even worse beyond that. These things are going to intensify. These things are going to intensify. And this is something else that we've talked about. Mr. Snyder thinks that the Fed will keep rising rates. They're going to continue to tighten until the middle class is gone. All right? And the real estate market will tank even further along with the economy. I don't think the so-called pivot is close. I think they are going to keep raising rates for now, and that is really bad news for real estate and for the economy, because the economy is already being crushed right now. We are already seeing a massive slowdown all over the economy, and not just in our country, but in other countries as well. I think that the Federal Reserve is determined to get inflation down, but eventually they will be forced to pivot sometime in 2023. When they pivot, ladies and gentlemen, the price of everything is going to shoot straight up. And finishing it off here, Mr. Snyder says, basically, we are facing the collapse of everything. We are already seeing mass extinctions all over the globe. One study shows that 32,000 species have declined by 69% over the last 50 years. So we are already seeing mass extinctions, and they are going to accelerate in the years ahead. Natural disasters, wars, and rumors of wars, pestilence, and all the things we have been talking about are going to combine and create the perfect storm. People will see their lives crumble. Their lives, careers, and what they plan for their future. Their lives are going to crumble. And I have to agree with that. And that is why you must prepare in every possible way that you can. Ladies and gentlemen, I take absolutely no joy in talking about this and saying this. And it almost makes me, well, it does. It makes me somewhat emotional, because this is true. People are going to suffer. And even those of us that are the best prepared, there will be suffering involved as well. People are going to plunge into depression and despair, and they are going to see no hope. There is hope, ladies and gentlemen. Get prepped. We can make it through this, through whatever's coming. But in all honesty, I keep saying get prepared. How can you see anyone making it through what's coming, through the perfect storm, as Mr. Snyder says? How can you see anyone making it through the perfect storm without any preps, without having the things that you need in order to live at the very minimum. Society will melt down all around them, and they won't see any hope for the future. If you want hope for the future, you need God, and I agree with that. Whoever you may call your God, okay? And he finishes off by saying you need the Lord Jesus Christ, not just to get through what we are facing, but what we have in the end. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that maybe are not awake yet, for those of you that maybe watch these videos to get some form of entertainment from them, you really need to consider doing your own research. And why is this so important that you do your own research? And I always say that. It's because if you go off of my words, if you go off of Mr. Snyder's words, then you're going off of the words of someone who does not have to pay for the consequences of your decisions. When you do your own research and you convince yourself either way, then it is you that will pay for the consequences of your decisions. For example, just to make sense of what I just told you, let's say that you do your own research along of what we just talked about here. And you're like, well, this is all phooey. There's nothing wrong. Everything's going to be just fine. There's nothing wrong with this. And you decide not to prepare whatsoever, and you continue to live your life behind rose-colored glasses, right? And you continue to have a normalcy biased life. Then when these things do occur, it is you and your family that will face the consequences of you not having prepared ahead of time, right? So it is you. No matter what I say, all right? No matter what I say, it is you that will have to pay the consequences for your decisions that you make today. But on the other side, if you do your own research and you convince yourself through research that, A, there's a lot of validity to what's being spoken about here, and I think I'm going to look into it a little bit more, and then you finally convince yourself that, yeah, we need to be prepared. We need to get ready for what's coming. At the very least, we need to have 6 months worth of food in our pantry that we eat every day. At the very least, we need to have maybe 5-gallon cans of gasoline put away with stabilizer just in case something happens, that we can have at least one tank full in our vehicles. At the very least, we need to have some cash put away at home just in case the ATMs go down. I'm not sure if you've been seeing all of these videos about banks closing down and banks shutting down accounts for no reason and giving their customers a really hard time to reinstate their accounts and just let them get a hold of their money that was in there anyways. So these are the things that we need to prepare for. There's nothing wrong with doing all of those things that I just forementioned. Nothing wrong with it at all. Even if you're not of the preparedness mindset. It's just having a little bit of security in different parts of your life. That way, if something happens in one or all of them, you can make it through that short crisis or long crisis, should that happen. Having said that, I hope you have a great day. Again, I'm going to put out that video later on today. I hope you watch it because I'll tell you what, it was a lot of fun for me to make it. And I just want to show you on that video, man, there is absolutely nothing wrong. And wait till you see how old some of the things that I actually used to cook and ate were. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for being here. And thank you very much to all of you who joined in on our live stream yesterday. We had a great time, just as always. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place. And you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.